Welcome to Queendom TV. Today I'm going to be discussing why children's songs and fairy tales have such dark origins. And this is one of my other crazy theories or conspiracy theory videos that I like to do. So welcome to Queendom TV. Please subscribe if you feel the vibe and you want to join the tribe. Also let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below and like the video if you do. I'm going to get straight into it because I was just thinking about this earlier and I can't remember even what made me think about this earlier, but I was thinking, what is the dark origin? Now, as we know, and if you don't know, there are plenty of good videos on YouTube, or you could just do research off of YouTube about, different fairy tale stories, where they originated from, or, songs like Ring Around the Roses, songs like that, Alice in Wonderland and the history of that. There's a channel on YouTube and I literally can't remember, and it's always about the dark origins of everything, and this guy does fantastically detailed research about the dark origins, and he goes back. Some of the stories he goes back like 400-500 years of some of the stories that we now have as lovely little cartoons for children to watch, right? And so I was thinking, why do we do this? I was thinking particularly about Winnie the Pooh, because Winnie the Pooh was the first one that I heard about that really made me start to think like, whoa, this is weird. And why are we pushing this towards children, And I started to think about that. And as I started to think about that, I started to develop a theory. Y'all who are from my channel, you know how I do with my theories. I'm always coming up with a theory, right? So I was thinking, first of all, I think when people put things art out there in the world, in the entertainment industry, TV, music, yada, 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 I do believe there is a message to be told or some level of an influence to be being had. So there might be a message. People might want to give off a certain message. That's why people talk about like representation, because if you see somebody that looks like you when you're a child, for example, in a TV show, that might give you hope that you can achieve that in your life, and stuff like that. So there is an influential element to entertainment, even though we call it entertainment. A lot of it, in my opinion, is a bit of indoctrination in there as well, because people are, again, it's a good opportunity actually to try and push or influence people, because people are going to be in more of a vulnerable, a relaxed, open-minded state when they're watching something. Because maybe when you're watching the news, or maybe when you're doing research, you've got your thinking cap on, as my primary school teacher used to say. You've got your thinking cap on because you're thinking, let me find sources and resources that are trustworthy, etc. When you're watching a movie, you might just be watching the movie just to enjoy it. You're not thinking so deeply into, why is this happening? Is this affecting me? How is this influencing me? And that brings me to my theory. My theory is that the reason why these children's things have such dark origins is because I believe the evil powers of the world, and this is how I refer to them, the evil powers of the world want to normalize evil and negative things, but also kind of in some ways brainwash children. And I think about this when I think about Winnie the Pooh, and that's why I mentioned Winnie the Pooh, because Winnie the Pooh turns out to be based off of different mental health disorders. And this is not me trying to say mental health disorders are evil. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the fact that they represent certain behaviors. For example, Eeyore having high levels of anxiety. I've heard Winnie the Pooh, I think, is supposed to represent, I don't know, diabetes or gluttony or something like that, and so on and so forth. They all have their different, I think Tigger is like got ADHD. For me, if it was coming from a place where we made this show to help children understand that it's normal to go through certain things, I'd feel different. But it's the fact that people kind of had to look into it and then realize the dark origins of where this came from. What is it that you're trying to model to children? Because even with a character like Eeyore, for example, Eeyore was always a character that I personally found extremely annoying. I'm just going to be honest. I always found Eeyore extremely annoying because, and the reason why I'm talking about Eeyore in particular is because I feel like sometimes when you put something in front of somebody's face, that's what they work towards. In the same way that people watch anime, you've got young people who've watched anime or who've seen those kinds of shows. They are motivated. They want to, they want to become stronger. They want to do things because they've seen something and they want to emulate that. And this is how children are. They're copiers. Children are copycats. They copy what they see. If it's their parents, they copy what they. And I've worked with children, so I can tell you guys that children are carbon copies of their parents. They're carbon copies of their parents. That's why it's crazy that no one's taking accountability for children anymore. It's because none of the parents want to be held accountable for the messes that they've created, if we're being honest. But that's a conversation for another day. I have done some videos about that as well. But they're copycats. So I feel like a lot of this is getting children to respond in a certain way, because if you're watching Winnie the Pooh and you go, oh, I relate to Eeyore, sometimes I feel a certain way, you're a lot more likely to end up going through the types of issues that he went through just because you've seen them. And I do feel that way when it comes to children. I do feel it's that simple, you know. I used to wonder like, oh, I'd love to just spoon honey in my mouth like Winnie the Pooh. Excuse me. And then I tried it and I was like, that's not it, you know. But maybe other people will. And I think a lot of what happens in these shows is to influence children in a particular way. And I think that's why they have these dark origins, because the thing is, and this is what's kind of scary about this day and age that we live in, right? I talk a lot about free will. I talk about how God gives us free will to choose what we want to do, to choose who we want to represent, whose kingdom, whether we want to be evil, good, however, right? One of the things that's concerning to me is the fact that sometimes when just because something can be based on something dark, that has a cascading effect on it, if that makes sense. So, because I believe on a spiritual level, it kind of has a domino, like a cascading, like I said, like a kind of domino kind of effect, because you don't know where something came from. And I wonder if a lot of these children's TV, you know, shows, the fairy tales, the songs are some of the reasons even why there are mental health issues. Not because necessarily it's in the fact that what's being seen or said, because the children may not understand it, but there is a spiritual influence that takes place. That's one of the things I was watching is what did I watch? Was it something I was watching? Well, it's a myriad of things that I watched, and a lot of different experiences I've had myself, where you hear people talking about how, you know, even in the music industry today, there's a reason why they talk about certain things in music, because it's almost like putting a spell. I did a video talking about this, about how, you know, words are like spells. That's why we call it spelling. When you say something over and over again, it puts that idea in your head. Like if I was to say to you right now, right, watch this. If I start to tell you about pizza and I start to tell you that my favorite pizza is, I'll tell you guys just because I want, just to prove my point. So in pizza, I usually like to get, if I'm getting one pizza, I like to get half and half. One side definitely barbecue based, other side definitely tomato based. I like to get quite a lot of meats because I'm a bit of a meathead. I do love a garlic and herb dip from Domino's. Love that. Really looking forward to trying Domino's in the United States, right? Me just talking about that, like the likelihood is you're going to start to think about pizza and you're probably going to want to have pizza, and it's particularly Domino's, and you might even want to try what I just said because I just said it, right? And that's what I mean by spells, because it's putting something in your head that you're now thinking about that's now causing you to act a certain way. Now, that is how a spell works. We don't think of it like that because we all think about Harry Potter when they're like, Expelliarmus, and something happens, right? And you think, well, Expelliarmus doesn't mean anything in my head, right? Those kind of spells are almost better in a sense. I'm not saying they are, but they almost are, because a different spell, other spells, you know, are like, oh, when people are saying things, it's having an effect, because the whole point of witchcraft is manipulation. Witchcraft is manipulation. So if somebody's doing something that's manipulating you, they're moving with a spirit of witchcraft. That's why if somebody's trying to control you on purpose, as in outside of your own will, without you understanding, without you being able to fully use the free will that God gave you, that is witchcraft, you know. And obviously the basic example of me talking about pizza, not necessarily, but then again, that's also kind of what the adverts do, because why do adverts have people doing all this stuff? They're casting spells on you because they want you to go and buy those stuff. And I'm not saying that in like, oh my gosh, guys, everything is evil. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there are levels to these things. And when it comes to children in particular, because us as adults, I feel like we get to say for ourselves, we get to make our own decisions, what we can and can't handle, etc., etc. That's fine, right? Children are vulnerable. And we have a responsibility as the adult people to look after them and to make sure that they're not being put in any situations they shouldn't have to be in, right? In my opinion. And so for them to have to go through some of this stuff, it's very concerning for me, because I'm like, why are we allowing children to just be hearing from these things? What are the potential spells that are attached? And people do, and this is the other thing, people do actually do, like in the entertainment industry, people are doing rituals, people are doing spells, people are putting energies into the stuff that they do so that the recipients respond in a certain way. That's why I believe so many people today are very, very promiscuous in this day and age. That's why I believe people are very depressed and stuff in this day and age. It's not just because of the things that people go through, although that's contributing to it a lot. I also think that people are dedicating their work to something evil, because people are using evil powers to be able to be successful. And so that's why I think this is my dark reasons why I think people are the dark origins, why people base a lot of children's stuff off of these dark origins, because they're already trying to have this darkness that they're putting into children, because children are the ones who are being attacked in the world the most, whether we want to address it or not. And that's because if you get people as a child, you've got them for life. That's the devil's plan. And get them as a child, you've got them for life. And destroy them as a child, they're going to spend a majority of their life / adulthood trying to repair everything that was going on in childhood and not doing anything else. And not to say that's a negative, because you should absolutely be dealing with what went on in your childhood. Let's all do that. I do that myself, you know. But just think about it, like how different our lives would be if we'd all lived the childhood that we were supposed to live. How quicker would we have gotten onto the path that we needed to get to? A lot of us are not necessarily even on the path that we're supposed to get to even now still, you know. And when we go back, it always ends up going back to childhood. And that's why I say a lot of this stuff, because it's very concerning to me. It's very sad. I feel for, you know, the younger generation and for children, because they're just there innocently. We were all there innocently singing a ring, a rosy. To then discover what these kinds of things are about is just shocking. But anyways, you guys let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you have enjoyed this video. I would appreciate that so much. And like, of course. God bless you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.